Did you ever have this phase when you were younger, when you started going to the gym, where you just started watching loads of bodybuilder shows, training, and I used to play this game with myself on who had the best like body parts, like who had the best biceps, who had the best chest, who had the best legs, and kind of squash them together. They're in this, weird hybrid. Now sounds a little bit weird, but we all have that phase. But when it came to the back and who I fundamentally believed was one of the best bodybuilders of all time, it was always Dorian Yates for me, this gentleman you can see on screen. Now, he really changed the game in terms of bodybuilding because it's what you actually see here today with this kind of like more mutant monster kind of bodybuilding style. I'm not a massive fan of it because it's not aesthetic. I prefer kind of the later years, such as the Franco Columbo, Frank Zane, I believe. But there is no question in my mind that this individual has one of the best backs that's ever graced the Olympia stage. And I wanted to talk to you about two particular exercises that Dorian, I suppose, made more famous, made more prominent, and would have in his program, and what you should have as a staple in your program. And the first one is a Nautilus pullover device that you can kind of see here on screen. Apologies for the sirens if you can hear that, but this is a very rare machine to find in the gyms. The closest I can get, you can kind of see on screen here, is this lat pull down machine with dual handles, but not from this angle. I'm going to share with you in a moment and how I kind of switch this up and get a little bit more activation in the lads to get that lat spread, to get that wide look, to get that Boeing 747, or as Dorian has was christened, the shadow look. So when you do that lat spread, you have you're casting a shadow. Well, this is a really tremendous machine, weight plate loaded, pardon me, as opposed to the pin. And this little swap around I do from the other angles, I really feel I've been incorporating a little bit more into my program more recently, and I'm feeling a greater affinity, a greater connection, getting underneath that armpit into that big, large lat muscle and getting all that blood flow and activation in there. The trouble is with this kind of machine is you're not going to have your legs pinned down. So as the weight is coming up, you kind of have to rely on more control to control the weight coming up, so you don't fly off the bench. This angle is fine because, again, your legs are under a pin, and you can kind of see here I'm in deep meditation with these weights, trying to connect my mind to the muscle in this particular aspect. I feel the disadvantage of this kind of position, though, as opposed to the position that you're seeing on here, is the position of the back. You can kind of see, look in this image here, how stretched my lats are. I'm kind of going full range here, and that's kind of what you want as a pullover. And the aspect of the movement I really want you focusing on, if you can incorporate this into your routine, is the humerus. Think about your elbows, allowing your elbows to come up right to the full range of motion, and then driving that elbow down and almost back and in. You can kind of see here as the back is slightly extended, I'm really driving that elbow back down, and that is the pullover. That is the pullover aspect of this. Dorian really highlighted in his training this idea of a vertical row, so a weight that is, above the head where the humerus is in full extension, and rowing down into the lat, and also a row from, what would you say, from the lowest point, which we'll talk about next. But I really encourage you, this I've seen the greatest results in terms of mind-muscle connection with the latissimus dorsi muscle, because my traps are overdeveloped, and the weak point in my back has always been the lats, probably because the tie-in isn't as good as Dorian's is. You need a little bit of genetics to kind of help you your way. But this Yates row, I firmly believe, is the greatest trapezius muscle exercise there can be. I got a little bit fancy here with the angles, but the idea, as opposed to a bent over row, is that the torso is kind of 45 degrees. You don't want to be kind of 180. You don't want your your back to be parallel with the floor, because that's more lat activation and you're more rowing with your latissimus dorsi. But you're trying to get that back 45 degrees. I like, you can kind of see a better angle here, but I like really almost rowing the elbows, not just in, but also a little bit up as well. You get a bit of rear delt activation as well. And this, for me, as I've kind of prefaced, not bragging here, but I've always had, let's say, an easier time developing the upper back because of this exercise. And I get a lot of compliments in that regard. We all have our muscle groups that grow a little bit better than other muscle groups. But the idea here with this exercise is you can really load the barbell quite heavy. And, Dorian Yates was very famous for his intensity in this respect, putting a lot of weight on the bar, standing up. And I mean, the incline is very, very slight with that. And I found, again, the best benefits coming from this particular exercise. If not, a T-bar row is always really great. You can kind of see here I've spliced different workouts together because my outfits keep changing. But the issue I have with this particular exercise for me is my posterior chain must be very, very weak, because the challenge for me is you can see almost like a rock and a sway as the weight's coming down, the hips are going back. I kind of want to keep that a little bit more fixed, because I don't want my glutes and my hamstrings and my lower back taking any of the weight here. I want this all to be more upper back and I suppose lats as well, if you're really going to fold the torso over and go parallel to the T-bar. I think we have a better angle here. Just getting myself set up. But again, the challenge for me is keeping those glutes, those hams and those quads in a fixed position and just allowing the full weight of both of those plates to be moved by the lats, but more particularly kind of mid and upper back here. I think I do a fairly good job, but again, I'm not really liking the sway that's involved in this particular exercise here. So as I mentioned before, guys, you can kind of see there's the combination of both this vertical row movement from the weight above the head and the full range of motion here in the shoulder, coming down, driving the elbow down, and also back in. So you almost want to like tuck that in. And then you've got almost the antithesis of that, where the weight's on the floor. You're coming from this low position here, and you're rowing in and also a little bit up. I've never done shrugs. I've never really found a great affinity for shrugs or rack pulls. I'm sure they may have your place in your training program, but I fundamentally believe if you're doing a back day, if you incorporate the Nautilus, I'll call this the Nautilus pull down from a reverse angle. You don't need to go heavy on this as well. Trust me, you will feel your lats swell with blood. You'll get a crazy, crazy lat pump. And then if you're looking at traps, it's going to be the Yates row, and your traps will blow up, believe me. So again, guys, this was just a short video. Be interested to hear your opinion on what you feel the best back exercises are. Of course, there's a lot to be said about, pull-ups, any row variation, but I'm more curious about who do you think had the best back, and what exercises have worked best for you. Feel free to drop your rep ranges and things like that. Anyway, not theories, facts. Speak soon.